All right, and I believe that we are live on my end.
Yep, I'm going to.
All right, good morning, everybody in my chat, and good morning to anybody in Leon's chat as well. I hope everybody's doing well this morning.
Hi, it's nice to see you all.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. So, as I promised, I am going to have a very special guest on my stream today. And of course, I'm special guesting over on Leon's stream today. And today, we are going to be talking transition and we're going to be talking art. So, Leon, if you'd like, go ahead and introduce yourself to my chat.
In classic fashion, things started, and it seems like there's more sound coming from somewhere.
Oh no! I thought we hunted it down before the stream, as always. It's all right. We'll give Leon a second to hunt down the audio source, and my continued talking will help her find the echo in her source. So that'll give me a chance to kind of explain the premise of today's stream and introduce at least my perspective on how I met Leon. So the reason why I wanted to bring Leon on stream today for all of you is because Leon is not only one of my very close friends and a friend of this channel, but is somebody who has mentored me in not only art, but in life as well. She has been a great source of inspiration, not only for my artwork, but also for my transition. And I thought it would be really great to bring somebody who has a lot of knowledge in both of these capacities onto the live stream so that we can ask her questions directly. So anybody who has any questions about art, who has some basic questions about transition, we'd be happy to go over that. Now, just something like I'd like to asterisk there. Neither of us are medical professionals, and like obviously we can't be like giving out like medical advice and stuff like that. But if you have some like basic questions or some stuff that you've been curious about, obviously within reason, we'd be willing to answer those questions for you. And hopefully that kind of explains anything. So I'm gonna do a quick.
Right.
Oh, Leon, did you get it fixed?
No, it looks like we're good.
Okay,
Right.
I lost your avatar on my side, but hold on, let me check. Let me check what's going on. It could be me. Yeah, no, I lost your connection to the video thing. Hold on, let me resend you the link.
All right.
No worries. All right, once we get Leon's avatar back on screen, we're good to go.
It was rather a frantic hunt to figure out where the extra window was.
That's how it always is when we do these dual streams. I scuffed it way worse last time when I had Curiosities on, and I almost had that poor girl in a panic attack. Oh, it was really, really stressful.
Okay, I believe I've joined it again.
Scuff to the max, lemon zest. You've said it perfectly, my friend. Also,
What's a stream with some amount of scuff?
I know, right? It definitely wouldn't be made by me. Perfect. Get that out of here. We don't go for perfect around here. Well, I guess while we're figuring out that last little bit, I'm just going to do a quick roll call. So, Escape, welcome. Lemon Zest, Peeps. Ali, Hisote, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I'm like trying to read off this little screen. Gavik, welcome. Crazy Krita, also, thank you so much for the super chat before I even started the stream. Like before the live stream even started, Crazy Krita dropped in a super chat. So for anybody who missed it, we're gonna be dropping some super head pats for Crazy Krita because they got the stream started off right. I couldn't believe that. I almost missed it too because I was in the middle of setting everything up, so I just caught it under the corner of my eye. So Crazy Krita, thank you so much for the super head pat to get the stream started off correctly.
As far as I'm aware, I'm rejoined.
What the heck happened then? Wait. Oh no! I sent you the wrong link. That's my bad.
Oh.
Hold on. Wait. Click this. There you go. I sent you the thing to like do it through like the browser source. And it's the same password I gave you before the stream.
Okay.
Whoopsie. That's whoopsie daisy. Already off to a good start. The ghost of Leon. I know.
There we go.
She exists in our imaginations. Listen, chat.
I am but a figment of your imagination.
If you send enough hearts, she may appear for us. Spam the chat with hearts right now. We have to make her appear.
I don't know about that one.
Listen, our unlimited love can bring her back to life. Didn't anybody see the end of the Pokemon movie? Wasn't that the moral they taught all the children? Like, if you cry hard enough, you can bring your dead friends back to life.
Okay, I have that window open again.
I remember seeing that as a kid too, and even as a kid, I was like, "Are you serious with this ending?" Yay! Look at that, all sending trans hearts too. Aw. You're all so adorable. I love you all so much. Oh my goodness. Oh, Mr. Backman names, welcome to the stream. Dalton King. I'm trying to pick up the names that I've missed so far. Nikki, if I missed you earlier, welcome as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it's working at all. Oh, wait, there you are. Wait, I think I gotta fix it on my end one more time. Wait, I think we're good.
Yeah, I was... Yeah.
Hold on. All right, so let me redo this. And... Come on, materialize. Please work. Yay, we got her. She's here.
Alright, awesome. Alright.
Alright, we're good to go now. Yay, everything's good to go. Alright, now you can introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Leon Serenia. I stream myself. I don't do videos yet, but I'm planning to. I'm mostly just hanging around on Fetty and drawing and like streaming games and stuff, and fielding a lot of questions from Rain every now and then.
I do tend to keep her pretty busy with some pretty random questions sometimes.
Oh, don't worry. I get plenty from around just about everywhere.
But one of my favorite things that I hit her up with randomly is I was trying to do perspective work, and I sent her this entire mess of a drawing that I did with all of these like slightly crooked lines coming from a source, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. Please help me.
Well, and that was a fun one though, because you sent me that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I could use, you know, some of the things I've learned in some like of the introductory drawing classes that I had taken. Be like, hey, like, okay, this is where you start.
Oh, I think that a couple of people have already started asking a couple of questions. So I think what I'm going to do on my side, I don't know if you want to do it on yours also, Leon, but they have like a Q&A thing for the live stream. I think maybe we should use that. I don't know if you know how to use it.
That's not something I'm familiar with, no.
Okay. All right. You got to click the little plus button and it says start a Q&A, and then ask about art or transition questions, I guess, would be what I'm going to do for mine. Then
nope, this sounds perfectly fine on my end too.
All right, so I started the QA mode on my end. So anybody who wants to ask questions, put it in there so they don't get lost in the regular live stream chat. If you put them in the live stream chat, you might get missed. So definitely use the Q&A. It's not going to show up on the live stream. It's just for me to read on my side from my chat, and then Leon can read it from her side as well. And then I also have the live stream chats open up on screen so I can read everybody's chat at the same time. All right. Peeps on my end asked both of us, when did our eggs crack? Did you want to answer that question first?
Sure. So, uh, that's something where if I look back on it realistically, I've had feelings about uh being trans going as far back as like, 6 or 7, but I think I kind of explicitly figured it out when I was about 12. Um and I've known ever since. The hard part has just been coming out.
Oh wow, that's actually quite early in life that you were able to identify that.
Yeah, it is something that obviously it's not everybody, but a lot of trans folks do have the experience of knowing pretty early, and it ends up being like a lot of it being repressed rather than unknown. Of
So
course, some folks question themselves only like later on in life, though.
so that would be my experience. I guess I get to have the other half of the coin.
Uh
So
huh. Uh huh.
so growing up, I had a very interesting experience because I grew up impoverished, right? So we got donated a lot of toys and stuff. And as a kid, my mom would let me keep a lot of the girls' toys. So like the playing nail polish sets and like the Barbie dolls. Like if I kept like a Pocahontas Barbie doll because she was my favorite. Then I got to keep like the Easy Bake Oven and stuff like that. So like my mom was always open to stuff like that. And I was always more curious about girl stuff. And thankfully my mother was extremely open-minded. Like she didn't mind teaching me how to walk in heels just for fun. Like she's just like, you can't really do this, right? But like, I'll teach you how to do it
Of
anyways.
course.
Right, at home. But it never like clicked with me. And in fact, actually, just like because of the way my father was, I repressed it because of my service in the military. I repressed it because, you can't be a girl in the military, right? Like, come on. So
Right. Right.
and for those two factors, I ended up for most of my adulthood, like just completely being like hyper masculine and like pushing out any of those feelings and emotions and any of those signs and just like going hard right on them instead of like looking into it. And it was only back in, I would say probably about like June of 2024 that I was like, holy crap, wait, there is something really like going on here. And I started having major wake up calls. But it wasn't until I had my accident before I started like making those like big life changes that like kind of led me up to that point.
Right. And I guess on my end, it's rather ironic because I didn't get too much dysphoria early on. And I think it's primarily because my father and my parents didn't really have this like hyper masculine idea of, how boys are supposed to present. We were really allowed to just kind of be ourselves. And it made the early part of my life like not too bad that the heavy dysphoria didn't really set in until later.
So my mother, as I mentioned, was extremely good, and my parents are divorced. My father first didn't want anything to do with us, and then, like, in the middle of our childhood, eventually would take us sometimes. And that's like when he picked up on like the more feminine like features of, I guess, his at the time son, right? And that's when he would like start implying things. He would always be like, "Oh, you're such a girly boy," and like he'd make fun of me for having a diary, and like that's where a lot of it came from in my childhood. And of course, I wanted to be like my father, right? Like who doesn't? And I finally got a chance to like hang out with him, so I don't want to be like that in front of him. It made me feel bad, so I think that's where a lot of it came from for me.
Yeah, I guess mine in contrast is like, I definitely looked up to my father as well, but also like again, he wasn't like hyper masculine. He was actually a very compassionate man, and I I ended up associating not the same things with masculinity that most of society does, right? Like, you know, being tough or like unfeeling. I feel like most of the time, like you're only really allowed to feel like, say, it feels like anger most of the time. Otherwise, you're supposed to like kind of close yourself off. Almost, it's implied.
Oh,
But my dad wasn't really like that. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to keep him around for long, so uh,
you have my
that was
condolences
something that
there.
didn't last. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I
so
mean,
it's
oh, go ahead.
it,
Sorry.
it's a weird setup for me where the way I expressed myself wasn't like too dysphoric just because of how I was taught. But as I became more and more exposed to the world and what the rest of the world considers to be masculinity, ended up realizing that's not something I really jive with.
I kind of fell into that, and like the thing is that's kind of nice, I guess, is like a lot of my friends, like of course you included, I consider you one of my close friends at this point. I got to
Oh,
witness
likewise.
all of this. I got to witness all of this from my end, so I'm really glad that I kind of did it the way I did it later in life, and with the group of people that I like had to turn to for advice and stuff, even though it was really scary and stuff. Like, because I'm gonna be real with you, like coming out to all of you was an incredibly difficult thing to do, because like I really thought you all were gonna be like, wait, you can't be trans, like you said you were cis, right? I don't know,
Well,
it's a
that's the
stupid
thing
fear.
is, it's the thing, we understand like questioning that sort of thing, and I feel it's the benefit of the queer community is we're always kind of figuring ourselves out and refining the definition. So it's not something that is all that surprising, to be honest.
What what's the word that I can't, I'm trying to think of the word that I didn't want anybody to think that I was just like kind of coming in and just being like, oh yeah, like, well, this is super cool, I want to be part of this. Like, I'm like, no, I want them to make sure I'm
You weren't
genuine.
you weren't like posing.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. And I felt so weird about asking the questions too, because it's just like it was so unfamiliar and I didn't want to offend anybody. And I'm like, I don't even know how to ask anybody. Like where do I even start?
Right. And it's funny because like I feel like that's a classic trans experience, is having this big like, you know, I guess preconception of what everyone is going to think of you like before coming out. It makes coming out like a pretty big mountain to climb, even though for a lot of people, especially queer communities, they might not think twice of it.
Well, that actually leads into a question, and I'm going to skip around on the questions a little bit just because it's relevant. Hesote asks, how does one mentally prepare and build up the courage to come out as trans? So I guess that's relevant. If you'd like to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to gauge. I think the very, very first thing is to prioritize your own safety first. Because unfortunately, like just the reality of it is there's a lot of horror stories out there of trans folks that come out, particularly minors that come out to their parents, and end up not being received too well, for one reason or another. Like it's not super common, but like there are instances of being like disowned or whatnot. So it's like always prioritize your safety. And if you don't know how someone is going to take it, perhaps you can talk to them about queer subjects to gauge their reaction first. But other than that, it's after the matter of safety, it becomes a matter of comfort, right? Um, it's something that you can't rush, and you don't need to come out all at once either. You could do it in like phases, and in reality, like you can kind of take it slowly and tell your closest friends first, and kind of slowly grow it outwards from there, because it's going to be something that you're going to have to kind of broach like multiple times throughout your transition.
I'm actually really glad that you phrased it that way, because that was actually really similar to my experience. Now, I had less of a safety concern because I'm much older in my life, and I was already in a position in my life where, I could tell most people, and their opinion on what I'm doing doesn't really impact me. Like, they can dislike it, and it
Of course.
doesn't really matter. Like, I could just move on if I needed to, right? Like, that would hurt, right? But it's like, it's optional. Like their acceptance is optional. Like it's not like I'm still young and with my parents and have to explain myself to them, and they might have some pushback there. But for me, the part that like was the most difficult, as you mentioned, was coming out in phases, and that's something that I wasn't really prepared for, and two, kind of had to stumble and figure out on my own. And I think, you mentioned it right. It's all based on comfort. Now here's the thing, and I will bring this up because there is like a little bit of a parasocial element to like part of the reason I came out, and I brought this up on live stream before too. So like I started coming out to my friends first. I made a social media account with Rain. I started doing all of that, right? The people in my YouTube community had no idea. What ended up happening is I had shown a drawing to a couple of people in the Discord as numbers, and it was signed as Rain. And one of them went to go figure me out. And of course, because I made the Rain account on the same instance that I made the numbers account, they just put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb on my part. And I didn't private any of my notes, right? So they were all public, so they could just read everything. I know, it was a disaster. And like, I understand where I screwed up on this, right? Like, so I'm gonna take the L where I obviously messed up here, right? But again, like it was a new thing for me, and this was like, I'm still like kind of like, I consider myself a newer YouTuber. So like this was a mistake that I like didn't even anticipate like happening. And yeah, I got into it with them a little bit, and like things started getting upsetting. So I was going to wait to come out on the channel, but because I had concerns that my community was going to spill the beans on.
Ari Boy super head patted 44 cents.
Ari, thank you for the super head pat. I appreciate that, my friend. Because I had like major concerns, like that somebody was gonna like out me for me. I was like, no, I'm not gonna give them that power. Like I have the power to come out when I want to. So even though it's a bit more than like I'm prepared for, I made the video coming out on the channel, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm Rain now on the channel, and that was not a great situation to be in. So if you're someone like me, if you like interact with social media and this is something that you're looking into, like make an account, make it private, make sure that you set up your privacy settings, and like just make sure that you have like a password manager and keep everything separate, and make sure that you don't accidentally leak information that you're not ready for certain people to see, right? So proceed with caution there. But other than that, like go with your comfort level and start like slowly introducing it to people in your life. And like that was the best approach for me. And yeah, I guess that's all I got to say there.
Right. And like I was gonna mention, like that is always a risk, especially if like you have things that leave a trail of being trans. It's like there is always the risk of being found out, I suppose, depending on what you do. So I think that situation where you kind of took it into your own hands, it's like it's better to come out yourself rather than have like more people find out like by happenstance. Like that could be something you can gauge like the cost benefit of.
I was really happy too that our community over on transfem.social and those connected instances were super supportive. Like when I went there and I told them like what was going on and like how my community might react to this because of like what I'd already experienced already, they came out and swung out in full support of me. So like that was huge. I had no idea that was going to be like happen. So everybody who showed up that day, and there are a bunch of you who are still there from that moment, like Crazy Krita was there when that happened. So like, I mean, honestly, thank you for sticking along with me like through all of that, because some of you have been there like since the beginning.
Yeah, it's something where like obviously we run into a lot of like transphobic kind of rhetoric thrown at us kind of automatically, and it's so much to the point that people who haven't come out yet, that can be a legitimate fear. But I think when you're dealing with another, like particularly a trans community, then like what you'll find often is that most people are excited to be like, okay, we got another one, yay.
Fair enough. I am going to I'm going to be very awkward about this until we get used to it. I'm going to go ahead and read another question.
No worries.
Crazy Krita wanted to ask you, how long have you been drawing for?
How long have I been drawing for? About the same amount of time, really, that I've like known I was trans. Um, I think the very first times that I drew, uh, was around when I was 12. I ended up finding this book that I forget if it was in our library or if my parents just had it or something. And it had like tutorials on it in it for like I think it was like drawing bugs. I didn't have a specific interest in bugs, but like it just had a quick like step by step like here's how you draw an ant. And I remember like it like showed like doing a simple shading. It was just like, a quick uniform like crosshatch across the entire thing. And I remember being blown away when I was young. It was like, wait, you can do that? You could put like something that's more than just like there is a line or not a line there. um yeah, that's where that started. So I'd say at this point I've been drawing for a little over 20 years.
Your art is so impressive. I've always been blown away by Leon's art. Obviously,
Oh.
I've told Leon, I've told this story a few times on live stream. I can tell the much quicker version this time. But just on the other half of that, just real quick, just to answer the question a little, even though it was directed to her. I was greatly inspired, and I didn't grow up doing any art. I only became an artist about roughly a year and a half ago, and it was because of Leon's drawing. She posted something on social media. I happened to see it, and I was like, oh my god, this is so goddamn cute. I want to be an artist too. And I just went to it and just started drawing.
And like though I suppose like even though I've been drawing like for 20 like calendar years, I suppose that does come with a caveat that like it's not continuous. There were rather long spells where I didn't draw anything, so like there are big gaps. But I had been drawn off and on like throughout those years.
So I do have another question for us that's art related. And Ari asked this earlier. Before I made Rain, they wanted to know what inspired numbers can be fun. And this is actually a question that's related to both of us, because even though I came up with the name for the character, if you want to actually, I don't know if you want to start this off, but it's like a story for both of us.
Yeah. It's like I remember sitting in on some of the streams where you quickly went over this. But I think you commissioned me and you're like, okay, I want to have an avatar drawn. And I'm like, okay, well, it's like, what would you like to do? Like, I was trying to ask you for the prompt, and you gave me like a digital explorer, and then I'm sitting there like, okay, you got anything else?
Oh my goodness. So here's the thing. I was just so excited to have the opportunity to like get a commission from you. I didn't even think that far ahead. I was just like, oh my god, wait. Oh crap. I actually have to come up with something now. Oh no. Oh, I already gave her money too. That's how excited I was. I was like, how much is it? Bam! Here's the money. Wait, we gotta draw something now.
You skipped to step 4 of the commission process.
Well, I was very inspired by your work.
No, I greatly appreciate that. So I'm like, okay, well, I have to get creative here a little bit then. So I decided to sketch, I think a few things. I ended up sending you, I think, 2 different just vague ideas. And of course, one of them was the robot idea, because I remember from what you told me, you kind of wanted something that was kind of genderless or ambiguous. So
Yes.
I decided to take that idea and I'm like, okay, well, I will take that and I will intentionally make it so that it's like rather ambiguous. And I figured like one of the ways to do that would be to kind of lean towards like a robot or like and that I figured I could um apply a more digital explorer bend to pretty simply. Especially with the sort of like face like screen deal. And I think after sending that sketch, you ended up saying that you really liked that one in particular.
Oh my goodness, I was blown away by it. Now, here's the thing, not to diss on the little spellcaster person that you made too. I can't recall the exact details, but it looked really good. I liked it because it was still kind of neutral, but like the human element, like still kind of like leaned two direction far for me. Whereas like the robot, I was like, oh, well, this is ambiguous. I mean, you could just take the top hat off. You can put anything on, right? Like, this is great.
Of course, yeah.
So like, and for me, like not really knowing, like, and that was the thing, like, I didn't understand the feeling within myself, but like, that was one of the first things where I was like, wait, I don't have an identity. I don't even know how to describe myself to another person artistically, like to even come up with my own character. Like, that was like my first, like, not alarm bell, but like kind of like a, that's probably worth looking into.
And like that aspect, I think Lily, my girlfriend, I was showing her some of my art, and she looked at some of it and mentioned that there was like a depersonalization there, like a not really like you don't really attach your sense of self to like your own like appearance or something. And she saw a depersonalization in some of the art that I had made. And I remember looking at it and tilting my head and was like, oh, that's true. It's like I didn't even realize it at the time. And that's something where that can be a coping mechanism for dysphoria in a way. So like that definitely makes sense. I remember when I drew those two quick sketches, I think I drew the robot one first, if I remember right. And I did the other one just to have another option because the prompt was so vague. I wanted to make sure I had a few options to show you that I sketched out real quick so that, I could kind of tease out which direction you wanted to go.
I was so excited by the robot. I could, like, I mean, obviously, like, I've drawn it. I mean, I still draw it. Actually, did you see the most recent numbers? I think I showed it to you.
I believe so.
Yeah, the one
I can't quite recall at the moment.
I put the arm cannon on and it's the light going behind the head.
Right, yeah.
So I still adore numbers to this day. And like, I look back on it fondly. The reason I redrew that is because we watched my very first live stream on chat. And then we came to my transition video, and I saw numbers fading out at the end, and I almost started crying on streams. I was like, "Ah, well, I kind of want to draw him again.
No.
Been a while." Oh no. Oh goodness. All right, hold on. Wait, let me grab another question from the chat here. So Charlie wanted to ask: is it true the girl character does more damage in Street Fighter?
Well, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer.
I don't know
feel
either.
like that's like, unfortunately, I'm not a Street Fighter girl. I don't know if I've ever even like tried a Street Fighter game, but I will say that is something that wouldn't surprise me if it were true.
Here's the thing. I'm just gonna give everybody the biased answer, and I'm gonna be like, absolutely. Girls always do it better.
I mean, obviously.
Okay, let's see here. Voice training regimen. I don't know if I got through the first time since Peep Sham wanted to ask about voice training regimens.
Right. So, I think the usual first step for any sort of voice training is obviously like going on YouTube and just like looking at voice training. You'll often find a lot of I think we usually all find a lot of similar content. I think a lot of folks are familiar with the heat from fire, fire from heat exercise.
Absolutely, yep.
There's a lot of good ones. I would say like the most important thing is you research a lot of those to figure out what the techniques are, and I think a lot of people they try to be like, oh, I gotta set aside like an hour, 2 hours. They try to set aside these like big chunks of like, I'm gonna sit down and voice train, but the reality is it's hard to really fit that into your day. So I think what ended up working for me is trying to consistently even just like a minute or two at a time, just whenever you happen to be able to fit it in, working on voice training throughout the day, throughout most days, just whenever you happen to be able to spare a couple minutes, and what you'll find is over a long enough period of time that will add up quicker than you might think.
I definitely want to piggyback off of this because pretty much everything that Leon said is true, and I just want to kind of add like my own personal experience to this because a lot of people ask me this question too, and they claim that I've made a lot of progress. I still don't fully believe that, but you know, I hear the clip sometimes and I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, it's definitely different. But the thing that worked really, really well for me, I know this is gonna sound stupid and a little bit crazy, right? But like, trust me, this is less crazy than you think. Now, I'm in a situation where I spend a lot of time, you know, obviously outside of the stream by myself, like in my house, right? So I don't really have anyone to talk to. So talk to your pets, talk to your plushie, just narrate what you're doing in the girl's voice, and then also accept the fact that your voice when you first start this is gonna sound super weird. It is going to sound like you are faking a girl's voice. At least that's how it was for me. I sounded like a fake girl. Like I was walking around my house faking a girl's voice, and it sounded ridiculous. It sounded stupid. And it's one of those things that unfortunately a lot of people you have to kind of get over that fact. You're gonna sound really bad at first. But once you break through and you start doing those little bits every day, right? Like, because all I'm doing is just saying like, oh, I'm going to put my dishes away. Oh, I'm going to wash the dishes right now. Oh, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. I'm just like kind of announcing what I'm doing. And that all adds up. That gets you more familiar. You get used to saying words a little bit differently. And also that's also something that like really helped me out too, is analyzing the way I said things and experimenting different inflections in different ways that I say my words, because men speak a little bit differently than women do. So find somebody that you like to listen to and listen to how they actually say the words you want to hear.
Right. And I think what you said with kind of narrating all the time, that kind of helps that same sort of like just getting practice in whenever you happen to have the capacity to. And it's not tied towards like having to sit down and voice train for like an hour or more, because that's the trap that gets people the most often. And you end up seeing memes of like, oh, I got a voice train, I got a voice train, I got a voice train. And then like they're going to bed for the day and it's like, I got a voice train tomorrow. Like if you could just incorporate it into your day in like little bits and pieces, that helps so much. And yeah, I think it's still important to look up resources. A lot of the exercises that these videos will have you do, what they're going to do is they're going to help you explore your voice. And once you figure out what sounds that you want to kind of go with, it's easier to kind of just emulate those sounds while you're practicing. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be something that it's not going to sound the best, especially at the beginning, but so much of your voice is constructed from muscle memory, so like your habits, and also muscle strength. You literally have to train those muscles that you're not used to using, and you have to put an effort towards emulating that sound consistently up until the point where you cross over that like 51% threshold, and then it starts becoming a habit. Once it starts becoming a habit, it starts self-reinforcing.
That is a really good key point. And that was one of the things I first started looking at, like with the live streams. And I understand, like when I first started doing this way back in December too, like my voice would start cracking in the middle of the live streams. But that's how I'd look at it. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to stream. I can't not stream, right? So I started looking at my live streams as an opportunity for voice training. And I'm like, okay, well, that's my strength building like exercise. How long can I keep this voice up for? And a lot of people hear the cough. They hear me like clear my throat a lot. But like, if you have to learn like when you can push it. And there are some times where I've pushed it too far. Those are important lessons. Make sure you take those lessons. Like if you like completely throw your voice out a day, maybe like not do 4 hours of the girl voice that day. But you'll build up to it and eventually you can like sustain it. Like I can pretty much sustain it almost all day. Now, as long as I don't get like overly animated with it now, I can keep doing it, but I'm still not exactly happy with the way I sound. So there's still work to be done there.
course, and that's a very good point that, like, should always be stressed when it comes to voice, is that if you're ever feeling any amount of strain or especially pain, immediately stop and give your voice a rest. It's not worth hurting your voice to try to do this. It will change in time if you give it time to actually develop. It's something where it's like it's I think you said earlier, it's not going to be very obvious, especially at the start. Um, and as your voice gradually changes, it's going to be hard to notice. But I think like I was the same way. I wasn't hearing my voice change much, but if I go back and listen to clips of myself from a few years ago, the difference is stark.
I from my very first live stream when we listened to it on stream the other day, I almost felt like I used to force like a deep voice. Like, I almost feel like I was
No,
like,
same. I think I was showing Lily an old video I edited for Final Fantasy 14 where I was chatting with some of my friends, and we got to the first point where I said something in the video, and Lily was heckin' like astonished. She's like, "Wait, that's you?"
uh, oh, yeah, well, I've got a full record of it too. I did promise to preserve the content.
No, true.
It's gonna
I
be
can't
good.
claim the same because like I ended up like unlisting a lot of my old stuff, but it was a lot of stuff I wasn't proud of anyway.
When I am finally happy with where I am in my voice training and I'm like happy with the way I sound, I actually want to do like kind of a voice training journey. So I'm almost glad that I live streamed all of this, even though I go back and I look at those and I kind of cringe, right? Like it's going to be good for content. It's going to be good to show people too. Yeah, it takes one, it takes time, right? And two, like I'll have real examples of like me screwing it up, my voice cracking, all the times I've cleared my throat, right? Like I should have all of that available somewhere in a live stream.
Uh-huh. And like I guess it's one positive thing about like something that happens more often these days, more of our lives, even outside of being trans, more of our lives are like documented and recorded these days. Um it ends up kind of introducing more issues, especially public figures that end up coming out as trans later. There's not really much that they can do about everything that has already been shared of them beforehand, which it's its own concern.
It was something where I'm like I'm really glad that like where we landed with my character was the robot, because like obviously at this point, like now I joke with it, it's like, oh, that's my power armor, right? Like so it's really me the whole time,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I got lucky in that capacity. But there's a lot of content creators, and they're stuck in a corner with it, and there's nowhere to go. They have to just like basically reinvent themselves, or just like try to convince their audience that they're this new person. Well, it's not even a new person, right? But like this new version of them is this. I don't know. It's so unique. It's hard to even comment on.
Well, right, because you gave me the kind of ambiguous, the intentionally gender ambiguous kind of prompt, and I took that and I was like, okay, well, I'll add like maybe a feature here that could be interpreted as slightly masculine and others that could be slightly feminine. Like I gave the character wider hips and but like also like a bit of like a shoulder. But it was all very like vague and like it was almost like you could like see it in any way that you'd want to see it.
And that's why I enjoyed it so much. I did want to pick up on another question. This is kind of related to voice training. It's actually the other half of voice training. If you're comfortable, Nikki wanted to ask, what are the methods of HRT that we use? I'm comfortable answering this question, but if you're not, that's totally fine.
Okay, sorry. Say that one more time.
So apologies. So Nikki wanted to ask, what are the methods of HRT taken, like injections, tablets, etc.? I'm comfortable talking about the type of HRT I am on, but I'll leave that decision up to you.
No, I'm comfortable with that too. I haven't experimented much, in fairness. I'm aware that there are injections for like the anti-androgens, and like some people use an estrogen gel. It takes some experimentation to figure out what works for you. but I think for me, I have always done like the estradiol pills for my estrogen. And I'd always taken them sublingually, and that means that you place the medicine under your tongue and eventually it will dissolve in like straight into your bloodstream. And that's usually what I had taken. Otherwise, my anti-androgen, I just, took orally, just swallowed in order to get the T levels down.
So I'm on a similar regimen, and I also take estradiol, or I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly. Estradiol. I take
Estradiol.
I take the girl magic under my tongue too. And I take Spiro. I'm gonna try pronounce it spironolactone, as well. And that would be my anti-androgen, or at least a T blocker. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah. At least as far as I'm aware, the T blockers are anti-androgens.
Okay, fair enough.
I think Spiro is the most common one. That ended up not being the one I was put on because I had a specific concern for... I did experience some male pattern baldness, and so instead the doctor I was given put me on finasteride instead to specifically also help address that concern at the same time. So even though it's a weaker anti-androgen than Spiro is, it kind of pulls double duty.
Interesting. So my primary concern being an older person was liver impact. So I was advised by my doctor that obviously taking, the girl magic under the tongue was going to be the least impactful to my liver. So if I had concerns, well, there's already a good method established there. And I also opted for the Spiro because I guess it's slightly more impactful on your kidneys than it is on your liver. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is just stuff that I've been told about it. So that's why I opted for those two, and they've worked for me. I haven't changed anything about my HRT regimen since I started, at least from what I've observed. I haven't needed to. Now, I've had my own personal concerns recently, and it's something that I even reached out to Leon about privately, and I was like, well, let me discuss what I'm thinking here. About what I'm going through, but all of this, primarily I discuss with my doctor before making any changes or anything like that.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a comment in your chat right now. If you're concerned about male pattern baldness, you need a transition, and that's something that I can attest to. It's the primary reason why I wish I had started earlier to help preserve more of what I had, because something like finasteride and I think other anti-androgens help to more limited degrees, but it's something where transitioning could kind of put a pause on that. You can't regain what you lost, but you could at least put the process on pause.
So something that I kind of wanted to bring up, and I've had questions about this too, so I'm just going to kind of bring up the experience because I don't know how to it's a little bit weird. So both me and my sister we're both trans. My sister came out as trans and figured it out way before I did for way different reasons, right? Obviously, different experiences and whatnot. But even when she came out as trans, I still wasn't ready at that time to I accepted her and I was totally all for it, right? But I just I wasn't even ready to look into it at that time. But one of the things that she told me is she's hey, I'm intersex, and I didn't think of it anything of it at the time, but now looking back, I've thought about it, and both my sister and I, obviously, both of our grandparents on both sides of our family lost their hair, and neither of us lost our hair. Actually, both of us still have full heads of hair, and I had some growth on my chest starting from puberty, as well as my sister. And I even remember my mom bringing us to the doctor about it, and my mom asking, and the doctor was just I don't know, get them into sports or something. They're kids, right? They're weirdly shaped sometimes. And that's all it was about it. None of this was common knowledge back then for any of us. And it's kind of weird looking back and kind of seeing the signs and then knowing I blatantly ignored it my entire life.
Well, yeah. And who knows? I haven't had a chromosomal test. Who knows? I might be intersex in some way and not quite realize. It's not something I'm really in a position to be able to figure out quite yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I do find it also interesting, the fact that you and your sister are both trans, because while I don't, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Um, like while there aren't any like conclusive studies on it, there is like some murmurings that it might there's some factors of being trans that might be hereditary. Um so it's something that like it doesn't seem too surprising for me.
I haven't had the test. Now my sister has, so just something I wanted to throw out there to the chat. So I still haven't gotten any confirmation that I am actually intersex. I am just kind of like going like, oh wow, and comparing my experiences with my sister who has had the test and going, yeah, there's a lot of similarities. They're not 100% the same, but there's a lot. There's a lot there to unpack. And I probably, when I can afford it, I do want to go and get confirmation there and see if that's a thing for me too.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat where, yeah, if it ever becomes like feasible to do without too much cost, I probably want to go get a test because I imagine there might be something there that might help inform why I ended up being trans.
Fair enough. I'm gonna go ahead and read another question because I don't want to fall too far behind on them.
Yeah, of course.
Raven asks, "Hi, I'm Raven, and I do some fan art for Rain here, and I already did some, and I want to ask, what is the best way to draw a glow or a shadow on digital art?"
A glow or a shadow? Um, so there's some different techniques. Obviously, you can kind of put a gradient on the edge of something for a glow. Usually, an object that is glowing, the center of it will be brighter, like closer to white than the edges. That's something to consider. Putting a shadow on something, it depends. Some areas have harder or softer shadows depending on the way like light hits the object. It's something that it's hard to really describe. It's something that requires a lot of practice, a lot of drawing, like trying to draw still life objects to really kind of figure out where softer and harsher shadows appear. Um, but it's a lot about trying to keep in mind where your light source is, and I guess basically doing the geometry in your head in order to imagine like where the light would be falling. And shadow is just the absence of light, so you end up putting those anywhere the light isn't hitting.
To kind of piggyback off of that, a really good way to practice that I did was starting with like objects that didn't like where the light source is actually behind the object and it like glows outwards. So like I did a drawing recently where it's a trans heart and it's on fire, and the light, obviously the light source is the source of the fire, right? So you can kind of be creative about how you draw the glow on something like that because that's the source of light. And then you can practice like working in the shadows from the edges there and kind of gauge like what looks right and just be experimental with it. It's one of those things where it's like, for me anyways, at least in my experience with art, it's like I just like to mess with stuff until I'm like, oh yeah, that looks right. Like it's probably crazy the 500 steps I did to make it, but hey, we got here.
Yeah, and of course, there's also some very stylistic ways to add glow, whereas like beyond just making it bright or adding like a soft like white gradient near it, you could also do like somewhat lens flare type effects in order to have it be a kind of stylistic shorthand to be like, hey, this thing is like sparkling or has like a light to it.
I think that's pretty good advice. I don't have too much more to add there. I did want to move on to another question because I run into this problem a lot too. So Saltskin wanted to ask, how do we deal with misgendering? It hurts me really hard.
So it's an unfortunate reality of the trans experience, especially if you're early on in your transition. Um, it's something where you're gonna have to be on HRT, and it's gonna have to take time. even with surgeries, sometimes you're just kind of waiting on HRT to do its work. Some of the larger change, like I say larger, they can be pretty subtle. The changes happen like sometimes like it can take up to 5 years or more. Like people look very different, when they start HRT versus when they're 1 year on it, 3 years on it, or even like 5 or more years. Um, the best thing that you can do is if the person in question is someone that is supportive, you can just kind of, and if you're out to them, you can kind of say, hey, like, please remember to use like she, her, or whatever your pronouns are, and try to be gentle, um, if they are respectful. Um, if you're dealing with someone who is transphobic, and like often transphobes will try to intentionally superimpose like no, he, him on you, and it's like there's not a whole lot of changing their minds, unfortunately. Oftentimes those kind of people, like the only thing that's worth doing is a block. Um, but I think there needs to be some understanding that like on some level the human brain is wired to look at somebody and within like half a second like already like categorize them in either one box or the other. And it's weird being like on the threshold between the two, because you'll go from being confidently clocked as male to confidently clocked as female on like the slightest pixel of a change. And it's interesting seeing how that happens.
I've
It's no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that a little bit because I'm still early. Well, I consider myself early on in my transition. It's been like 7 months now. We're getting up to a year now. Wow. But I've noticed that with mine, and there's a couple of things that at least I've picked up on because, like, obviously, like when I first started, I had a shaved head, and like there was no way anybody was gonna buy the fact that I was a girl, right? Like if I told them she, her, people would probably raise an eyebrow and just roll with it, right? But they weren't going to take it seriously, right? So like the thing that I've noticed, at least that helps me get gendered correctly, is my hair, and some light makeup around my eyes is like usually like the two things that have been like helping me the most. Because like think about like how most, and I understand there are some people who are on the autism spectrum and they're not comfortable with eye contact, but like regular folks, when they interact with each other, just think about how like most normal social interactions go. You look at somebody in their eyes to meet them, right? If you're gonna shake someone's hand, you usually make eye contact with them, and that's usually their first point of contact. So you want to kind of like work from the center out, and that's like how I've been approaching it. So recently I've been working on my eye makeup and just doing light touches, not like a lot of makeup, but just subtle touches, like a little bit of eyeshadow, a little bit of eyeliner, maybe just a touch of mascara, just to kind of highlight a more feminine feature in that area. And it's been helping me. Now I still don't get gendered correctly. Like I think people kind of more look at me like as somebody who's like kind of in the middle, maybe even a cross-dresser, right? I'm not 100% there yet, but I found those things to be helpful, right? And I'm getting less weird looks over time and more people kind of getting comfortable talking with me. I even had somebody bring out my groceries from the store they had like over to my car. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
And being gendered correctly, especially by strangers, you have to imagine that there's a series of like checkboxes, and there's a list of masculine checkboxes and a list of feminine checkboxes, and it literally becomes a matter of which one gets more checks is how someone automatically filters you, and this is subconscious. They don't realize that they're doing this, but it's one of those things. Like the more boxes you can check off, the more likely someone will just automatically like gender you correctly and not even realize it. So the things that you can look at are like obviously like hairstyle is a big one. There's things that people consider to be feminine or masculine hairstyles. And like you said, the eye is a big focus. Now, I'm someone that has like a bit of like autism as well. Like I also struggle with eye contact, but even like slight changes to like particularly your eyebrows and your eyes can help push you a far away. There was a time, and I should say, it took me about 3 years on HRT to consistently get gendered correctly. that's about when the shift happened. But when I got to that middle point where I was starting to go over that threshold, there was literally just a difference of I used to use this like an eyebrow pencil to draw on a little bit more of an eyebrow, and like I tweezed like some of it to make it a cleaner shape, and then use the eyebrow pencil to kind of make it more defined, and it was much thinner and much more raised. And then I think at one point I was trying out eyelash curlers, and it's like I think the eyebrows ended up being the thing where if I did my eyebrows that day, that pushed me over the edge. And it's simple. It's a simple just one thing. It is so weird seeing that one thing make all the difference, but it can when when that happens to be what puts you over the edge to ticking more feminine boxes.
There's the clickbait title. With this one weird trick, you can be gendered correctly.
With this one trick. Transphobes hate this one trick.
I love that. Oh my god. Oh, that's great. Oh my goodness. No, I mean, but that's the thing I struggle with too, and like I didn't realize it at first either, but like I've got thick caterpillar like eyebrows, like if we're just being real about it. And I didn't realize like the hair grows like significantly almost into like where the eyelid is. So I just slowly been getting used to like just removing that hair, raising the eyebrow. It's slow, in a slow, controlled manner, so I don't like take off half my eyebrow one day with the razor. But like the one thing I will say, don't do the top. Like if you're gonna use the razor at all with the eyebrow, don't razor the top of the eyebrow. I did that one time. It looks super weird. You're gonna flatten out your eyebrow. It's gonna like people are gonna like think you're always doing like the Rock look to them like all the time. It looks super weird.
Oh, I've never been brave enough to take a razor to the eyebrow. I've always just gone at it with tweezers in a mirror.
You know me, Lee. I jump into things head first. I don't think these things through. I'm just like, I want girl eyebrows now. And I think a lot of people fall into that same pitfall. Like they want something right now because it bothers them right now. Even I do that. And here's the thing. When I told my doctor, they're like, what's your transition goals? And I'm like, oh, a couple of years down the line. But I still get into that because things get into your head and you're like, no, I want to address this right now. I want to look like a girl today. You know, it still happens.
No, of course. And like it's a learning process, so obviously you want to try your best, but obviously you're learning along the way in order how to do it more effectively, more quickly, have it take up less of your day. One thing I will recommend, it's not something I've tried specifically, so it comes with a caveat of like I'm not personally familiar with this with this practice. But one thing that I hear a lot from other trans folks is that one thing you might want to do is you might want to go have your eyebrows be professionally done, so they can clean up your eyebrows in a way that fits the shape of your face really well. And then what you can do is after you've had that done, you can, use tweezers and a mirror every so often just to maintain that shape, because it might be easier just to keep that shape once you have it rather than trying to figure it out yourself.
I really wish I did that. Now, I ended up eventually just asking a friend who was, cisgender female, and just to clarify, and she ended up doing it for me, and I just kind of like been going along with that, like, and just slightly experimenting since then. But like, I really wish I just went the professional route, and I was just too scared to go in it, like, because I looked very male still, and I just was like afraid to ask for girl eyebrows.
Yeah, and like. I don't know the details off the top of my head, but there's some folks that go into like what like proportions help make you like lean more feminine or more masculine, particularly when like eyebrows and eyelashes are huge. Those are kind of like the biggest factors on your face that end up being gendered. Is like if your eyelashes are raised, so if you especially if you use something like eyelash curlers and like mascara, that's gonna push you much more towards femininity. Another thing that I do remember off the top of my head is like there's a rule where it's like if your eyebrows reach close enough in that they kind of frame either side of like the bridge of your nose, That is typically more feminine. I'm not sure why, but like our brain registers that as being feminine, as well as eyebrows generally being higher up from the eyes. So like you kind of tweeze a bit more of the hairs from the bottom ever so slightly. And just little things like that. You'd be surprised how much of an impact that has.
I'm gonna have to try some of these for myself the next time I'm feeling bold and experimental in front of the mirror.
Of course.
I did want to move on to the next question. So, Miss Anna wanted to ask, how long did it take to figure out a new name? It only took me a couple of weeks, and I wound up stealing it from my great-grandmother's name.
So at least for where my name came from, it's not something I had to deliberate on for too long. I guess I had it easy. So there was a time it feels kind of dead namey, but like I don't mind sharing it here. When I was like 13, I played EverQuest 2 and I ended up deciding that I wanted to go with the name Leonardo. Of course, I was 13. I didn't know how the name was spelled, so I misspelled it roughly how I have it now. But then later, when I went to transition, I realized that like I'd been called Leon for like that entire time, a couple decades. And I realized that just Leon is actually unisex. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'll just go with that. Though there is a short list of other names that I had gathered like throughout my life and like, of course, they're all girl names, which was another reason why I knew I was trans. That I was like, if I were to change names, this is what I would be. And that's where the Serenia comes from. It's a band that I like listening to. And as soon as I heard the name of the band, I was like, oh, I like that name. I really like that name. So I kind of held on to it for decades. So when I transitioned, it was kind of, at least for me, it was a rather natural fit to go with Leon Serenia.
But that's so awesome, though. You've been able to hold on to that name for like so many years, and it has like a lot of meaning now too. So like I think that makes it much more special.
Yeah, no. So it's like I got to carry a piece of myself forward, and it is still a part of me, but also like I've transformed.
So for my names, so I'm gonna like, all right, this is a little complicated, but like to answer the question right off the rip, to not bury the lead here, I actually knew what I wanted like pretty much instantaneously. But both my father named both my sister and I really bad, awful, like horrible long names. They were like way too sophisticated and wordy, and like we each had like 2 middle names. It's ridiculous. Anyways. So, like, they were pretty bad.
The third, Esquire.
Yes, absolutely. It's like Dr. Richardson Thumar the Fourth, like something like that. It's like ridiculous, like naming. Like, anyways, there's just way too much wordy. And my father always had this like false sense of sophistication about him. He always wanted people to think he was like rich and whatever. Like, anyways, so that's where we got our names. And both of my sister and I have always hated our names. For me, it's because my father actually changed his name, which makes it even worse. So I was named after him, and he changed his legal name. So like I'm named after nothing now. So my dead name has always been kind of a dead name in a sense. It was dead before I even deaded it. So but like I joke publicly, like a lot of people like who know me through the channel, right? Like because I play Needy Streamer Overload a lot, and my favorite character is Ame. Right, Ame's like Japanese name is Rain, right? So a lot of people are like, "Oh, you just stole the name from Needy Streamer Overload. That's your favorite game. That's your favorite character, right?" They're like, and like I lean into that joke all the time too because it's funny. But like, what's really going on here is it's actually the reverse. The reason why I like got attracted to the name Ame and that character is because my sister's name is Ember. So there was no question about like what name I was going to pick for myself. It was obviously going to be Rain because now I have been able to fix the bad naming strategy my father has been able to employ. So my sister may have came up with her own name first, but I wanted to match her. I wanted to like kind of have like that connection between us, and what better way than to have reflective names?
Of course, It's my aesthetic name I got from a game, and I'll choose how to wield it.
I have the meme in my Discord. I shared it recently too, and it's the Link holding like the pot over his head.
Yes,
and
that one.
Yes, I love that. Oh, that's my favorite. Of course, I did mine with that. All right, let me go ahead and pick a new question here. So Glitch wanted to ask, how does it go for people that have their medication mid-transition because of money or any other problem? So I guess what they're asking is if they run into financial issues and they're currently on HRT. I don't know if you're comfortable answering this question. Have you ever had any hiccups with your HRT though?
I've had instances where it got close, usually with like it usually wasn't issues of like finances. It was just trying to get like the prescription sent in time for me to like continue my HRT. It's a tough one because when you're put on an anti-androgen and you're not, taking testosterone anymore, and this works the other way around too. There's some risks to bone and brain health from what I was told when you don't have either estrogen or testosterone. So like it's unfortunate that can be a cause for someone to need to detransition, and that's a lack of support. But like thankfully, it's not something I've had to deal with personally. It's one of the reasons why the fact that I'm self-sufficient ends up helping a lot. So, I've never maintaining my medication has always been a top priority. That I forego like other luxury purchases for in order to make sure I can still keep that going.
I'm in a similar position now. I've had some close calls as well because unfortunately my really crappy insurance forces me to get everything by mail. And the transition, to use the word transition, the transition from the pharmacy to the mail procedure was not great. And I mean, people here know that I consistently I have to deal with a lot of medication related issues that aren't even related to HRT. Too. It's something that I take I prioritize as well, and I also do forego other luxuries in my life to make sure that like a couple of like tenants are always taken care of for me. So I always the most important thing, because I grew up impoverished, so my mom gave me a couple of rules. So hopefully this will these rules will help anybody out who finds themselves in a similar situation. Always the first thing you want is a roof over your head. That's the most important thing. Like your source of income should go to that first. Then it's your personal self-care, it's your health, anything that's maintenance to that. And then it's food, and then it's everything else that you want to get in your life. Bills and everything like that. Like my mom used to be like, you know what? You can live without electricity for a few weeks if you need to, right? Like, but you got to pay your rent. So like those are like little things too. But I've always prioritized those couple of things over everything else because it's like I can buy things later. I don't need a new computer right now. I don't need a new phone. I don't need toys.
Of course.
Yeah, like those things can wait. I can get those when I'm in a better position.
But it's something that like if you're trans, you understand because like yeah, when it comes to like medication, like trans healthcare is life-saving care. It's like I think people who are trans understand the gravity of like how important being yourself is, especially for your mental health.
And it's really hard because like I consider myself extremely lucky. Now I live in a region of the United States where there are zero questions asked. The state that I live in, they are extremely progressive. They have great grades on how progressive they are, and how much they support trans rights. Like they're like even in the area that I live in, like nobody has ever said anything to me in public about the way I dress or the way I look or the way I behave. So like I do feel bad though because there are so many times I see that and people don't have access to, even in our own country, don't have access to the same level of trans healthcare that I do. So I consider myself very fortunate that I had like kind of an easy transition on the medical side. But then at the same time, I look at people who are just a couple of states over and I'm like, oh my goodness, they don't even have this, right? Like they might it might even be an issue for them to even try to go to the Planned Parenthood depending on the state they're in, because there might be protests out there. That's I can understand people don't want to to get involved in that, you know?
Right. I think my experience is similar. I'm also in a state where, like, all I had to do was just tell people, like, hey, I'm a girl. And, like, they're like, okay, cool. You want HRT? This is what it does. Awesome. Yes, I want it. Um, I've, and, like, thankfully, I think most people, like, they aren't, like, explicitly supportive, but they also don't, like, they don't rock the boat. They don't bother me with it at all. I think I've gotten one comment while I was out delivering, um, that was kinda transphobic, and that was literally been it over the past, like, 3.5 years almost.
I had a friend who like just kind of was like more confused or anything. I remember them doing this. They saw me and they're like, so like, what are you, gay now or something? Because I have like the painted nails and like I'm dressed like more feminine, and I had to like kind of like walk them back, and I'm like, no, I just started my transition. But like that was like the
Yeah.
most I've ever gotten. It was from somebody I used to know anyway, so it's fine.
Well, and that's the other thing, and I think this kinda, like, it folds into, the question we got earlier about preparing to yourself for, like, coming out. It's like, when you tell someone that you're trans, there's a great level of dissonance that they experience. Like, people act like, sometimes, especially if they're older, they act as though you're trying to tell them the sky is green and during the day, or that, French fries taste purple. Is like,
Oh my
sometimes, like,
goodness.
the reaction can be very confused as they, like, struggle to accept it.
The other half of it that I've seen too is I've seen people start to treat me like I'm a brand new person. Like,
Yeah,
the old
that
person's completely gone. Like, oh, I'm gonna just treat you like brand new, like we've never met, and it's like almost like we're strangers again. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because it's like a reset, but I've had that experience too.
yeah, and I guess that can be an easier way for those folks to, like, cope with that idea and, like, alleviate that dissonance. So, like, that makes sense.
So one thing I did want to bring up, I forgot to bring this up with the misgendering thing, but I think this is kind of almost a good point to segue back into it. Is I do have like a good number of people that I like, obviously like family members and some friends, right? They do sometimes still make mistakes with my gender. Now, I will give them a lot of credit here. They are really good about it. Like 99% of the time, it's fine. One of the things that I try to do personally is show a lot of grace in that capacity, because people make mistakes, especially like when they're telling contextual stories about me in the past. That is when I see the dead name crop back up. That's when I see the wrong pronouns like creep back into the conversation. And that's something to worth noting too, like when you're interacting with cisgender people who know both sides of you, right? Is look at those contextual clues and see if that's the reason why they're misgendering you, and try not to take it offensively, right? And just try to look at it in the context that they were speaking from. And I know that can be really hard because it can be hurtful, right? And it does hurt a little bit too, to an extent. But then I also just try to remember, well, they're telling a story about who I was back then and not who I am today, the person, Rain, sitting in front of everybody right now. And that's the way I choose to look at it, and it helps. So hopefully that helps for
Yeah.
some people in those situations.
Yeah, it's like, there's no getting around the fact that, like, you are who you are, like, even back then, even if you didn't quite know it. But, like, especially that can be an easier way to kind of explain, like, how people are thinking about it, because other folks will kind of consider it that way, especially if they're kind of treating you like a new person now. Um, oh shoot, what was I gonna say?
Oh,
Um,
no worries. I lose my train of thought all the time. I swear I'm like a goldfish.
yeah, but I believe that like, especially where we are, like, the vast majority of people are supportive, but there's still things like, again, like, their ability to identify, like, who you are and what your gender is a very automatic, like, kind of monkey brain process. It's something that happens even without them realizing. And I've had people who are explicitly supportive and, like, emphatically supportive still accidentally say he every so often, and, like, they don't even realize they're doing it.
I
It's
did
something
I did that the
where I,
other
like,
day. Oh no.
yeah, where I, like, where I've heard people say that, and I'll gently say, like, she, her, please, and, like, not anything more than that. And I've had people tell me like, "Oh no, I'm sorry. When did I say that?" And it's like it's something that can be sneaky for folks that the automatic programming hits hard.
Okay, so everybody here knows, like, it's no secret. I was having some trouble with my medication recently. I took a break from streaming, right? Like, so, like, obviously, my sister is trans, and her spouse is also trans, trans mask. So, I misgendered them the other day by accident, and I dropped the she bomb on her, and she like took it great in stride, and she's like, "Wow, Rain, look at that, hating on trans people." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry."
Oh no.
And like, here's the thing, like that was like the first time I've done it, and like, of course, like he understood. He understood what I'm going through right now. There's just like a little joke, right? Like, but like it does happen from time to time, right? Like, yeah, depending on the circumstances and the situations you're in, like people make mistakes. Like it does happen from time to time. It is genuine.
Yeah, and I think I see a comment in chat of like Peeps Chan saying I needed a therapist to show my parents how disrespectful it was and how bad it was to use the wrong name. And yeah, like some folks just don't get how like don't kind of comprehend the gravity of it until like you look at some guy and you start saying like, yeah, madam, or saying sir to a woman. And it's like they'll kind of instantly react negatively, and you'll be like, see,
Yeah,
that's
I've
what
done
it's
that
like.
too. I do that with like the guy at the station because like he always be like, "Have a nice day, sir," and I'll be like, "Yeah, have a good day, sis." And like he like kind of just raises an eyebrow to it. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or if he just like like up like a weird streak, but like he hasn't said anything back to me yet. But I'm just gonna keep going with it until he says something.
Again, like it's hard it's hard to over stress like how much like the automatic like monkey or lizard brain like takes over for that. And it's something that does make when people do start gendering you correctly like so much more euphoric. Because like I think the first time I got gendered correctly by a stranger was like in a fast food drive-through, and they were saying she based off my voice alone. It was like, oh my gosh, like I've made it.
I've made it, finally! I can't wait to have that moment for myself. It's getting close. Like, I really think that the person who helped me out with my groceries, because I was wearing a skirt and I was wearing a hoodie, right? And I put on a little bit of light makeup and like tried my best to make my hair look somewhat feminine when I went to the store, right? And what ended up happening is, obviously, like, well, you know, and a lot of people in the chat know, but for anybody who doesn't know, like, I do have some movement disabilities. So, I use my cane to go through the store real quick. I just grab what I need, and then I obviously couldn't bring the cart out for whatever reason. They have these stupid pulls, so you can't bring the cart outside the dollar store. So I had to leave my bag at the counter and grab one bag at a time. So I grabbed the light one first to bring it to my car and like kind of like prep myself for the heavy one. And I turned around and there was a guy behind me, and he was like, "Oh, here you go." And he didn't say ma'am, but I'm like, nobody's ever brought, like, as like a cisgender male, like ever brought out groceries for me before, and I've been disabled for a while. So something is different here, and I don't know what it is, but that was really nice of them. Maybe they just felt bad. That's also a possibility, but you never know.
Yeah, like even before I started hearing the correct pronouns, I did notice, and like it became much more pronounced after I got top surgery. But like I did notice like people like far more often will like hold doors open for me, or like greet me with like big waves or smiles. I've been like also just kind of like honked at while I was walking down the road. Like I don't know if that was like a cat call or something.
It was
But
probably a cat call. Oh
yeah,
god.
it was probably a cat call. But it's like, and like I've also noticed like men just like staring more often. Like getting the male gaze, which is kind of ew, but like also like, yeah, no, I've noticed a very different way that society in general had been treating me. And like it does feel better in a lot of ways, even if it does come with some of the drawbacks that are just apply to women in general.
All right, now I'll give you something. If you ever want to just feel great in general, babies. don't care. So if you ever wave to a baby, they'll just smile at you like you're a regular, like no matter what. It's always a good experience.
Oh yeah, no. Kids, especially like below 10, like literally do not care. Like you tell them like, "Hey, I'm a girl." Like, "Oh, okay."
They just accept it and they're like, yeah, that's great.
Like they care more about moving on to whatever play they want to do next.
Exactly. I noticed it the other day too. Like there was a baby like in a cart, and just like obviously I move super slow in the store, right? So like the mom's like going by me. I see the kid in the cart, and like the kid's smiling and waving at me. It's like, aw. I was like, oh, at least they accept me.
Like thank goodness, like like homophobia or like transphobia like doesn't really like 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 come into effect until folks like get into like late teenage or like early adulthood when everything starts getting set in their ways.
And that's the thing that gives me a lot of hope too, is like because like as humans we don't really even like as children don't even see it that way. So I do believe there's a very large nurture aspect to a lot of the gender roles that we have, but that's a little bit above my head. I'm not super familiar with that type of stuff.
You know, I would say like yeah, it is very much a learned behavior in a lot of cases, and it like a lot of transphobia comes from the unwillingness to learn a new perspective that really only shows itself in folks that are older and don't want to change their ways.
So I think this is going to be somewhat related. Splashtastic, the real one, wanted to ask. So if somebody was never informed about being trans, means while growing up, and I'm guessing like as the way they phrased it is a little bit. I'm just going to try to rephrase it. So is there like any subtle things that you picked up, like dreams or any hints to your true gender identity before like you started figuring out? I know we covered this lightly before, but was there anything that was like really subtle that stood out to you? Did you have any dreams about it or anything like that?
I would say my experience was not very subtle. As far as dreams go, I won't go into explicit detail, but like there's a lot of times where like I was dreaming and actively like wishing at night like I want to wake up tomorrow as a girl. If only I like could wake up as a girl. Like I would much prefer that. And like I think the more subtle things, actually no, I do have a few subtle things. Like before I really had an understanding of what like gender roles were. So like, when I'm like, 5 to 7 years old or so, I remember I used to really like wearing my dad's t-shirts because on me they'd be super big. And looking back at it now, I realize it's totally because like wearing my dad's shirts would go all the way down to like my shins, and thus it would be kind of like a dress. And like my parents didn't think anything of it because he's just wearing one of her dad's shirts.
I used to do the same thing with beach towels. I would wear them like like girls would get out of the shower, and I would just be like getting out of the pool like that.
No, totally.
My mom would be like, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You do that."
And like also before I like fully understood that I was trans at 12. I remember I used to like it ended up being something I had to like think in my head all the time, but like I used to keep having to like affirm and convince myself like, you know what, I'm glad to have been born a boy, like this is great, like there's so many advantages and whatnot. And it's something where it's like, if you're cis, you don't have to like convince yourself of that, which is that's one of the first things that should have been a clear sign.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up because like I went through, I think like, so like along with the hypermasculinity stuff that I had covered already in this chat, like one of the things I often found myself, and I didn't realize this until we've gotten to this point in my transition, was the gender envy I used to get all the time and the weird ways that it would present. So like girls would be able to do something and I'd be like, wow, I really wish that I could go and do X, Y, and Z. Like, I wish I could wear a dress. Wish I could put on cute makeup and look adorable all day, right? Like, I wish I could take selfies with my phone and post them on social media and get 1,000 likes, right? Like, it was like always stuff like that, like, and like it always presented not in a toxic way, but just like kind of like you know, and then I'd always shirk it off and just be like, well, too bad I'm a boy, like, and then just like move on.
You know, and like we're sitting here talking, and I think I just realized, like, of course, like I know you've talked about this a lot, but like I'm also like demisexual. I don't really experience attraction unless like I'm emotionally bonded to somebody. Um, and I'm realizing now that like there were a lot of times that I looked at like particularly older women when I was younger, and obviously seeing like how their figures were and realizing that, like, I was never, like, attracted to them, like, being like, "Oh," like, I would think of that as, like, something good for being a partner, you know? I'm realizing now that I always looked at it with a level of gender envy that I didn't quite realize because it's like, it was never, "I want to date that," it was, "I want to be that."
So I didn't realize that, and like where I fell into the trap too is because again, hypermasculinity, trying to check off the boxes, right? You need to be in a relationship. You need to eventually, you know, find a partner, find a partner that you need to have long term with. And like what I realized, both being demisexual and trans, is that a lot of the partners that I'd pick are partners that I wished. Now knowing what I know now, I wish I was more like them in a lot of like. For one of them, for sure, in a lot of physical ways. Like I wish I looked more like them, and like, and that's why I was attracted to them. Which is like, now that I'm looking back on it, it's like that's a really bad basis for a relationship. It's like, wow, I'm attracted to you. That's not a good
But
start. Like, I mean, it is, but
yeah,
it's like that's one of the primary reasons.
yeah, because like, ideally, you should be attracted to someone because you wanna be with them, not because you want to be them.
Right, but like and that's like something that I've had to discover, like, and that's the thing, like a lot of people misunderstand that like being demisexual, it's like I've always known it, or I've always like just not like been interested in people, and it's like that doesn't really work that way, right? And like there are social expectations, and of course like I want to feel like I fit in too, so I want to go out and date people. Like sure, it's not the same experience for me, but like I want to be like my peers around me who have relationships, who have a girlfriend, who go through those same things, right? Like I don't know, like I don't know if it was necessarily peer pressure, but I just wanted to be like everybody else, you know? So like I ended up like forcing myself into a lot of boxes that I really didn't fit into, and then stayed in those boxes for way too long.
Yeah, I think a part of where like the autism I experience comes in is it really just did not make sense to me at all to ever date someone that I wasn't like, you know, romantically attracted to. And I think because that connection never really formed, I never like forced myself to do it, thankfully.
But that's the part too, like now that I'm looking back on it, like the things that I thought were romance were maybe not quite romance, and like maybe my partner saw it as romance, but like I kind of now see where like I may have been phoning in certain parts of the relationship, and that may be like why all of my relationships have been a disaster in my life. And ever since, like even before I started looking into the whole transgender thing, like way back, like right after I made the Sharky video and I first got invited like to hang out over in like the more transgender space of you know, where we hang out on social media. I was starting to look into being demisexual. That was the first thing I noticed. That was like something that I saw being talked about by the peers there, and I was like, well, wait, what is this? What is demisexual? Before even questioning the girl stuff, that is actually where I ended up first, because like that was like something that I had already been kind of aware that, yeah, I'm not great with relationships, and there's something wrong with me there.
Yeah, no, I there's definitely a lot that I had to kind of figure out for myself, even recently, even with folks that I was kind of romantically attracted to, realizing that like I needed to kind of discover my own needs a bit more.
And like something that like happens too, like like I realized too, like that the people that I used to have crushes on, I don't think I actually had. I think again it was just gender envy. Like I think any time I've had a crush on like somebody who was previously the opposite sex of me, I think it was just because I was like just really envious of like how they were, like either personality or like in looks.
Well, and gender envy in particular causes a lot of confusion for us because, you know, growing up, especially, we expect our experience to line up with those of our peers um, much more closely than it ended up doing. And so, we end up in a lot of cases, mistaking things that we're feeling like gender envy as being like attraction or a lot of other things that, we later realize oh, we don't work the same way as everyone else does, actually. We need to kind of do things our own way.
And actually, I'm glad that you landed on that like little piece of advice, because like here's like with all the things that we've talked about so far, like you still kind of have to piecemeal transition and kind of like tailor it to your own experience, because it's what works for me in particular probably would not ever work exactly right for Leon here, and vice versa. And the same's gonna work for everybody in the chat. Like everybody's got a different background, life experiences, and just different personalities. And some things, like some advice just doesn't always apply. I think a lot of people look for like that snake oil solution, and they're like, oh, this one content creator has all the answers, or this person has all the answers, and if I follow their advice, it's gonna work for me too. And it doesn't work like that. That's not how reality works, because we're all different, we're all unique. And like that's kind of the whole point of figuring this out.
Yeah, I think I didn't find a chance to respond to a message earlier, but it makes sense now. I think Sim Trickle said Leon, I was never glad to be AMAB until after I was already deep enough in my transition that I was definitively a girl. And yeah, it's one of those things where at the time when I was younger and I was trying to convince myself, yeah, I'm glad to be a born boy. I was definitely kidding myself and trying to make my experience more so conform to what I thought was normal. And
Oh my
it ended up being denial.
Oh my goodness. So there was nobody who was more hyper masculine than me. Like I used to take it super seriously to the point where I'd even get mad at people sometimes, like if they joked with me too much about being girly. Like I'd be like, all right, that's enough. Like, what are you calling my manhood into question? Like I would you would be fighting words for me at a certain point, you know? I used to hate when people would be like, wow, you got really girly eyelashes. I'd be like, no, I don't. And then I'd down a liter of whiskey to prove I'm a man, something like that. It was always something bad. It was one of the more toxic parts of who I used to be as a person. Is just not being even open to I would be fine for everybody else. It was fine, but for some reason I was on my own island and I couldn't get off of it.
Oh no. Oh, I'm reading now. It's supposed to be symmetrical. Oh, I'm sorry.
Whoops. Oh, well. Do that all the time.
Now I know. But yeah, no, a lot of the trans experience it does include a lot of you end up being in a lot of denial and a lot of trying to form your own life to kind of fit what is supposed to be normal, and then you realize that oh, some of the things you feel they are actually legitimate, or some of the things you feel they are vastly different from your peers. What do you mean? Other people don't think about being a girl all the time. What do you mean this isn't normal?
What do you mean people don't look at the gender and go, wow, I really wish I could wear a dress and a high heels and paint my nails. That looks like fun.
Definitely cis thoughts.
Definitely. Peep Chan wanted to ask a fun question. How do you call HRT, for example, feminems or antihistamines?
Oh boy, I really like antihistamines.
That was a good one. That was a really clever one.
I've also ran into tit tacs.
I like that one too.
Let's see.
I like girl
I know
magic.
there's others, but they're not coming to mind immediately.
I just call my girl magic because I actually have a bag clip and it says girl magic on it. So that's what I call it to everybody, and I'm that's why I got the clip. My girl magic.
Well, I will say, not a specific name for the medication, but as soon as I started dating Lily, and we were hanging out each night, I realized that like she takes her medication at 10 each day, like 10 a.m. and p.m. Um, and I was immediately like, "Oh, I want to take it with you." So like we synchronized, um, and we both started referring to it as engirling.
Ooh,
It's
I
like,
like
oh,
that.
no, it's like, "Oh, darling, it's time to engirl."
Oh, I like that. I like the sound of that.
Uh-huh.
Sounds mystical. It sounds like a ceremony.
It's like you're casting a spell, the engirling spell.
Ollie Branch said the notorious HRT. I like that. Oh my goodness. Oh.
I think we also have like a specifically Final Fantasy 14 joke. Like there was an image meme that I remember seeing a while back for it, but like in Final Fantasy 14, there's this item that you can buy from the cash shop called a Fantasia, and that's something that allows you to re-edit your character, and you can like change everything about your character, you know, like gender, appearance, race, everything. And I remember like there being a meme posted where holding up the picture of that Fantasia item and being like, "Ah, finally, the gender fluid."
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. Wow, they finally updated Final Fantasy to have HRT.
No, they really did.
Oh my goodness. I just ended up deleting all my male characters from before. Of course, they were all like super huge, like hyper masculine, like jacked characters. Like I always like pull all the triggers up to maximum. I have some screenshots. I'll have to post them in my thread sometimes. Like my old character designs were ridiculous.
Yeah, there are a lot of games where heckin' I did remove some of the characters, or some of my male characters, but like as far as Final Fantasy 14 goes, my main character I ended up like putting like a couple years worth of playtime into. So like deleting that character would have like heckin' deflated me. I would have died inside. That's why I'm so glad like, you know, the Fantasia existed. I got to transition in game and IRL.
So I don't know enough about Final Fantasy to comment. Here's what I have to say about ESO, because I had the same, like the pretty much the same thing, except I went the opposite direction as you. I played so much ESO and that character had so many years on it, but I also had not played ESO for so long and they changed so much about the game. So I was like, you know what, just screw it. Like, who cares how many years I put into this character? Like, right? Like, I mean, they changed so much about the game at this point. It might as well just be worth it to relearn it. So I just made a new girl character.
I suppose that makes sense. I think the thing with Final Fantasy 14 in particular is that there are some things that I've gotten on that character that if I were to want to go get it again, is like ultimate raid clears. You know, take months of progress in order to get. It's
Oh
like in
yeah,
order to
that's
get those
absolutely not
again,
worth it.
it
Yeah.
would be like untenable almost.
Oh no, I just moved all my important stuff to my bank account. I was like, screw it, see you later, YOLO. We're done here. I think I still forgot to move some important items too. I'm pretty sure like when I looked at my bank account, I was like, oh crap.
And like it's regrettable that so much in 14 is like character locked.
Oh no.
In that sense, there's not really as much of like using like a shared bank to move things between characters.
Oh, they see the one thing that I do like about ESO is like everything's kind of like account wide. So like my mounts and all the stuff I collected there, like that was already like part of the account. So like I didn't have to worry about that character issue.
Yeah. There's a few things that are account wide, particularly from the cash shop, but it's definitely not everything.
So the next question I wanted to ask was from Ari Boy, and related to trans question, is it recommended to migrate to a good safe space? I'm gonna guess either in person or online, but like I guess we'll leave it open-ended for that question.
I personally think it's something that is very important. It's one of those things where it's like, if you end up making the choice to come out to like your friend groups or the online circles that you're a part of, it can be very revealing on how accepting that they are. And it's one of those things where if you end up finding that a certain group is not very accepting of a trans experience, it's something where, at least in my experience, this is definitely not true always, but in my experience, that ends up being a sign that like they're probably not the kind of friends you want to keep anyway. And there is definitely a big shift as in my experience, when you transition to a more queer friendly space, like people are just a lot more respectful and accepting, even just as a baseline. And I feel it is worth it to do so, even if you need to kind of venture outside of your comfort zone and meet new people again.
I agree with that, and like being cis before and interacting with those, like, you know, with the LGBT community before, like, I came out as trans, like I was surprised how nobody even questioned why I was like hanging out with everybody, or like why I was like picking up like so many new friends from this community. Nobody made me explain myself or asked like why a cisgender person, you know, who identifies as straight and cisgender, hanging out here and wants to be friends with all of us. Like that was like one of the first like eye-opening things, is like I'm just part of the group here. Like I'm just part of the friend group. Like I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to prove I'm cool. I don't need to do anything. I just needed to show up and people liked me. It was a whole, like, it was a huge thing. Like adding gay people into my timeline was like one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I feel getting a group of friends that will accept you like entirely for who you are, and not just accept you but like support you, I think is very important. And I think true friends will, like, have your back in that regard. They won't just tolerate you, you know. I feel that trying to kind of force yourself to keep friendships just because that's what you have, like, I can understand the desire, but like I feel it is more than worth it in the long run to find a group that will support you. And you will find that like the folks that do end up they end up being a lot better friends in the first place. They're not gonna let you down like nearly as much.
So I'll bring up something personal that I've been going through, and I want to word this very carefully because like I hold the utmost respect for this individual. But there is a friend of mine, and I came out to them, and I came out to them in person, and I dressed up like a girl and identified who I am, and we had conversations. We've had a couple of conversations since I came out to them, and as far as I'm aware, they're 100% supportive. They accept it, everything except the phone calls have stopped coming in, the text messages, the offers to hang out don't come by at all anymore. I don't hear from them. It's been a couple of months. Now, I understand they have things going on in their life too. They have never, ever even hinted at they have like a single issue with me, but like their actions are definitely louder than the words that they're saying to me, and that can be very hurtful. And the only thing I can do in a situation like this is I don't want to go after them. I need to be respectful that they may need more additional time. They have a lot going on in their lives. And remember, I'm an older individual, so this person I'm talking to, they're married, they have a newborn, right? So there might be like other factors, and they might just not be able to handle like what's going on in my life and like the news that I've dropped onto them. So I'm trying to employ grace there and just give them the option, leave the door open to come find me. But I also can't just stay alone and like kind of like isolate myself. So I'm looking for new friendships in the meantime. And for some individuals in my life, I've just had to just do that and just say, well, door's open. When you're ready to come and talk to me and hang out with me again and be with me, we can do that. And until then, well, I'll just maintain that respectful distance.
Yeah, no, and I will say that like I very much have great respect for how you've handled things, because I feel it is very important to exercise that amount of grace. Like, I feel there can be a line of thinking where someone is like, "Oh, if you don't accept me, then like, they might want to go like confront that person." And I think the thing to remember is that there might not be too much to gain from that. So that's something you have to gauge. Um, I like oftentimes it might not be worth your time to like go do like a big confrontation. It's just if someone is not willing to put that time and support into you, it might not be worth like trying to reciprocate something that's not being given in the first place.
The way I like to look at it is most friendships and most like relationships you have with your peers in general, I like to look at it as a wooden bridge you're standing on. And when you come after someone and you bring that fire and brimstone and you're about to rain it down on them, you may end up burning the bridge that you were both standing on, and you may never be able to meet in the middle again. So that's something worth considering before you go ahead and do that. And I know it's hard because it's hurtful to me too. It really does hurt to not get those calls and those offers anymore and to have the same relationship that we used to have. But at the same time, the overall friendship, at least in my opinion, and for this particular person, is worth exercising grace for, because I do want them back in my life. And if I came down on them for, pushing me away at this moment in my life, well, then I might rob myself of the opportunity for when they are ready to have me back in their life.
Yeah, and like while this is occurring, then like that's time that you could spend trying to work on other areas of your life as well. And what you might find is like while some relationships may cool, um, you might end up meeting people who once they like kind of realize that you're trans, especially if they're queer themselves, you might find a lot more other opportunities suddenly becoming open to you. As because like I feel like there's a great like um warming effect when coming out as queer to folks that are queer accepting, because it's one of those things where once you realize that someone is also queer, I feel like there's an implicit like, oh, you guys kind of get it. Like, okay, well, we could chat a lot more. I could be a lot more open with you that then.
I was hopeful
It's a,
that my friend was gonna like just kind of take me open arms and just be like, yeah, it's great. Like, we've known each other our whole lives and it's like nothing's gonna change except I changed everything about myself. So that it should be implied that things are gonna be different between me and them. Like, I've basically destroyed 50% of our relationship, like for our entire lives, in front of their eyes. And that's something that I need to like also keep in the back of my mind. Like the image that they've built up of me of their entire life and all of the experiences we've had together, right? Like in a way, like it almost could feel to some people like I'm taking that away from them because like I'm a different person now, or I want to identify as a different person. And that could be something that they're going through too. Like, I mean, we have a lot of like shared memories and shared things together, and those new experiences are going to be different going forward. They're never going to be the same thing that we used to have together. And that could be something that, they're just not willing to admit to me. And maybe that's why they're being distant. So like those are things like to try to consider if you find yourself in a situation with somebody that you're really close with. And you do want to, at least for me, I do want to try to exercise grace there.
yeah, no, it's worth remembering that when you transition, like you are starting to approach life with a much different understanding than you had been working with up to that point. So like there are a lot of things that are going to shift and be different, and some of it is going to be like not the greatest, and other things are going to be changes for oftentimes like much better. It definitely is going to be a transition period, though, kind of adjusting to what all the changes are.
Sorry, I had my microphone on mute for a second. That's kind of like why I was jumping in and out of the chat there. Oopsie.
Oh, no worries.
We are starting to get to like the end time of the stream. So I just kind of wanted to start wrapping it up just a little bit there. And I wanted to go over one last time, just a couple of things. So I did put a vote out in my chat real quick to see if my chat wants to go ahead and have you back on my stream again in the future. So while I'm doing that, I also just wanted to give you one more opportunity to just like kind of talk about yourself, your channel, and like what you do. And get maybe some of my people would like to come over and check out your YouTube channel.
Of course. So I started streaming about a couple months ago. I decided like, okay, I want to actually give this a try. So like I drew my model here and then decided to start streaming Celeste. And that ended up going like so much better than I could have imagined. So like at the moment, I am just streaming gameplay. I'm doing Hollow Knight at the moment. And, we chat about trans stuff every once in a while on stream. I have not done videos. I've done videos on my channel in the past, but it's been a long time since that's something I've been working on. But I'm hoping to talk about trans things and as well as talking about certain games on my channel soon in a edited video format. I don't know when that's going to occur, but yeah, if folks want to drop by and hang out while I'm playing games, I would more than welcome you. Though I would also understand if, some folks maybe don't. I can't even
Almost
finish the
everybody in
thought.
this chat is a gamer. Everybody, click on the title of the live stream, click on the Leon's channel, and go ahead and give her subscribe button a nice little head pat for me. You'd be doing me a very huge favor. Leon is...
If you feel I've earned it.
Oh, she has definitely earned it. She is my idol. Don't let her modesty fool you. She has been my art idol. She has been a source of inspiration for me for a long time now, and she has been a source of wonderful advice, as well as being a very close friend, not only to me personally, but a friend of this channel. So definitely go over, visit, hit the subscribe button on her channel. You won't regret it, I promise. Having her in my life was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh, that's flattering. Oh, I appreciate that. And I'm so glad that things have been going so well for you.
I really do want to do this again, and 100% of the chat voted, and they want to have you back on, and for us to do a similar kind of stream like this again in the future. So if you're open to it, Leon, would you like to come back onto the stream in the future and do another Q&A with me?
Wow, sounds rigged. Or sure, absolutely.
I totally didn't tell them all to hit hell yeah. Oh my goodness. All right, so I think here is a really good stopping point for all of us. So as I mentioned, definitely head over to Leon's channel. Go ahead, give that subscribe button a head. But yeah, I think anything else you'd like to say before we sign off here, Leon?
No, I feel like it's been a wonderful chat. I've had a lot of fun, and I would be more than happy to do this again sometime.
For everybody in my live stream, I'm going to be going live again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing Kenshi. And of course, as always, before I go, I just like to put up the little thank you screen. I'm not going to do my full thank you outro, but I am going to roll the credits. Thank you, everybody who's been so supportive recently and who has provided any super chats, donations, or memberships recently. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to yours.
Thank you, everybody. It's been so fun to be on.
All right. I hope everybody out there has a wonderful day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.